The following program contains the opinions of the host, guests, and call-in participants. These do not necessarily represent the views of this show's distributors or sponsors. This program may contain obscene, profane, or otherwise objectionable language. Viewer discretion is advised. Yeah, coming to you cordless, everybody. It's Monday night, June 2nd, 2025. I'm Jim Peters. Welcome to another edition of Jim Peters at Night. This is episode number 235. Mark your scorecards at home. We'll have a test in 2029. That's when we'll have the test. How you doing, everybody? I hope you had a nice weekend. We have a fantastic guest tonight. AJ Rice is here. Now, if you've never heard of AJ before, he works mostly behind the scenes, but I can't emphasize this enough. He is basically his publicity says he's the GOAT of conservative publicity in America, and he is. And we taped this interview this afternoon, and you'll notice at the very top, I read a partial list. It's a partial list of some of his former and current clients. It's mind-boggling. Basically, everybody in conservative media and conservative politics you can think of, including most of the people in the current administration, he either has or now currently represents. I mean, it's really mind-boggling. So anyway, he's gonna be with us, and he's a hilarious guy. Stick around, watch this. Seriously, this is really cool. Tomorrow night we have Anton Chaikin here, and he's written a book called, and I can read. Look at this. His book is called "Who We Are: America's Fight for Universal Progress." This is the second volume of 3. He's a really interesting guy. He was the history editor for Executive Intelligence Review for 20 years, up until 2015, and he's got a bone to pick, basically, and we're really interested in talking to him. Now, I'm interested in this particularly. Lately, okay, I don't know why I do this stuff. I do it. I've been reading about the economics of Nazi Germany, and his father apparently had something to do with that. And so we're going to talk. I want to talk to him about that because. So here's the deal. So Himmler, one of Hitler's right-hand men, knew they were going to lose the war. So before that, he set up a cadre of a whole bunch of international bankers to basically temporarily keep Germany's fortunes, which is the primary reason, and no one ever brings this up because it was really remarkable. The city of Berlin was completely trashed by April 1945 when the war was done and Hitler killed himself, supposedly. That's another thing, too. I'll talk about that in part 2. I've always said that I thought that there's more evidence that Hitler escaped to Argentina than he died in the bunker, but there's been a new development, and I might change my mind on that. But at any rate, all that money got temporarily taken overseas, and Berlin completely rebuilt in 10 years, which was mind-boggling if you've ever seen the films and how much it was wrecked. The entire city was basically rubble, and then, of course, includes the Reichstag and the Führer bunker where Führer was, So anyway, I watched a guy named Mark Feldman. There's a series on YouTube, and he did a video on this, and it's really fascinating. Yeah, so anyway, Anton Chaikin is going to be here tomorrow. Our friend Jeff Meyer from Kong News is going to be joining us on Wednesday. On Thursday, Bruce Solheim is making a return appearance. He was on a year ago. Now, Bruce is a guy, he's a history professor, and I should have looked. I forgot to look. I think it's at Claremont College in California. We'll get that straight. But he's written 11 books, and I'm having him back because he released 2 books in April, and they're both, I would say, graphic novels, but they're not really novels. One is an autobiography, but it's done in graphic novel. It's basically done in comic book form. And the other is a series called Dr. Jekyll Alien Hunter. It's the second of the series of that. Bruce is a really interesting guy. Bruce claims he's been talking with an extraterrestrial named Anzar most of his life. Now, I was going to say adult life, but no, this is actually going back to when he was a teenager. And he says he still speaks to Anzar regularly. Okay. Now, you may think that's freaking nuts. I have a friend who watches this show who doesn't buy any of the UFO stuff we do here at all. None. He doesn't buy anything. And he watched this program with Bruce Solheim on. And he said, Jim, that guy I believe. And that's the thing. If you want a worthy witness of testimony, it's hard to come up with somebody better than Bruce Solheim. He's a very, very, very cool guy, very knowledgeable, very obviously very stable and not crazy. And he's been teaching history at this college for over 25 years. I'm right. He's written 11 books. Those are the two I just named, just came out last month. Or actually now that would be April, a little more than a month ago. But this is going to be, I'm really glad to have him back. That show we ran, of all the UFO stuff we've done, probably got the easily one of, if not the best response of everything. Because tune in and watch this guy. He is it's an understatement to say he's a credible witness. It is. We're taking most of next week off, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I have a funeral I have to go to. I think I explained this, and I'll talk if you don't watch every show here. I guess I understand. I don't know why you want it. My cousin Andy, I went to see my cousin Andy in the hospital, the VA hospital in South Minneapolis here. About 3 weeks ago now. 3 weeks ago, and my cousin Mark and I are talking to Andy, and Andy had an allergic reaction to chemotherapy he was getting for liver cancer he had, but they got all the cancer. He was actually doing fine. And I'm talking to Andy, and Mark and I are talking to Andy, and Andy just died right in front of us in mid-conversation. He passed. He just decided, well, I think it's as good a time as any to check out, and he did. Now, he wasn't expected to die at all. I mean, he was doing just fine. And needless to say, that was a little traumatic. At any rate, on Monday, 3 days of funeral stuff starts for him. Both religious and military. And so I'm going to be out Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday next week. We will run reruns. As a matter of fact, I think we'll rerun the show we're doing tonight. Next Monday night, we'll do that too, because AJ is a really, really good guest. And we got a couple other things. Now, we're doing that now. We are running reruns if we don't have a live show. And that seems to work out really well. Now, I've announced this too. In July, our plan right now is the second week in July, but we might, depending on what happens, we might have to change that. But I'd like to think before the end of July, we're going to start doing some Friday night shows on TikTok only. Yeah, I don't know. I've been bitching on TikTok for years. And yes, I caved. I admit it. I caved. If you can, tell your mom and dad or something, I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to do it because we've been posting shorts to TikTok. I posted a short to TikTok, and I can't remember what show it was about. No publicity, no advertising. I have no followers. We're brand new. 182 people watched it. What the hell? I mean, God Almighty, I didn't even believe it. So yeah, we're one of the things is you have to have 1,000 followers to go live on TikTok. So the plan right now is we're going to do selected Fridays on TikTok only, and then we are going to run the regular show live on TikTok too. But TikTok live shows on TikTok can only be an hour long. So basically, and we almost all our shows are longer than an hour. So once we hit the 60-minute mark, the signal will cut out. But we're going to do it anyway, just in case you're bored or something. Yeah. All right. Okay. We're not taking any calls tonight. We're planning on taking calls tomorrow night for Anton Chaikin. And so we're gonna we taped this interview with AJ Rice this afternoon, and let's get to that. We're gonna hear from our folks, our friendly folks at Calling News, and then AJ will be here. Stay tuned. Hi all, Jim Peters again for Calling News. Let me tell you one of the greatest things about Calling News. It's free. It's completely and totally free. You don't need to register. You don't need to log in, subscribe, none of that stuff. Sure, they run a few ads on the front page, but if you're an old fogey like me, you might actually appreciate this because when you check out Conk News at conk.com, you'll probably notice that it's the closest thing to an old-fashioned hard copy newspaper that you'll find online. The latest up-to-the-minute news from 75 high-quality sources collected every 3 hours, all laid out with photos and headlines directly from the articles. And when you click on a story, you go directly to that story. No ad page, no interstitial page, none of that stuff. This is the way online news is meant to be. And did I mention that it's completely free? Seriously, how much of stuff in America is free now, right? That's of quality anyway. So check this out for yourself. It's at conk.com, CONK.com, Conk News. Joining us from his office in Washington, D.C., the undisputed GOAT of conservative media in the United States, AJ Rice. Hi, AJ. How you doing?
That's right. You're talking to the GOAT, okay? Yep. There's only one in conservative public relations. You know, you got Brady, Jordan, Tiger, and then you got me, right?
Here's the deal, though. You're not exaggerating. That's true. I'm going to read for the viewers a partial list of your current or former clients. Here we go. Laura Ingraham, Janine Pirro, Donald Trump Jr., Monica Crowley, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Marsha Blackburn, Vivek Ramaswamy, Tulsi Gabbard, Carrie Lake, Dan Bongino, Charles Krauthammer, Steve Solis, George P. Bush, Dr. Ben Carson, Michael Waltz, Roger L. Simon, Buck Sexton, Ben Stein, Steve Hilton, Alan Dershowitz, RFK Jr., Peter Navarro, Lauren Boebert, Naomi Wolf, Pete Hegseth, Victor Davis Hanson, Newt Gingrich. You vacuumed up everybody in the world.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right, I'm either full of crap or I'm at the center of the MAGA cinematic universe.
You
right?
I'm
Donald Trump's very own personal Kevin Bacon.
But
okay?
you can't be full of crap. Otherwise, none of these people would be with you. I mean, that's the thing. You're not full of crap. So you gave me two choices there. I'm choosing B.
That's right.
Matter of fact, I should bring this up.
The secret's out. I'm actually the puppet master running everything, and I'm taking be here with you right now.
Yeah. All right. We had to reschedule this interview because a couple of weeks ago you were going to do it, and you had to go to the White House at the last minute. I know that too. You're a very important man. How'd you get started in this business? You're originally from Philadelphia, is that right?
Oh yeah, and look, the audience is going to hear that, and they're going to love it. They're going to love it. And in fact, you're going to have to refer to me going forward the rest of this interview as Super Bowl champion AJ Rice. That's what you're going to refer to me as. All right, as if I did anything except drink and curse that night. Right? I wasn't exactly playing the game, was I?
AJ, we're in Minneapolis, so
I know.
Yeah, so the Vikings, so I can't say anything about Super Bowl champions. So yeah, I bow to you.
I want to just thank the Vikings for lending us their stadium in 2017 when we went in and we put Tom Brady on all fours and made him bark like a dog. So yeah. I appreciate that. That was the first one. Okay.
Yeah, it was. That's right. That's right.
We just knocked down the second one there in New Orleans. So
no.
That's right. It was like 7 degrees, I heard. But the Vikings, they'll get theirs.
No, they won't. No, they're not. They're not going to get there ever. It's never going to happen.
Well, look, the NFC North is kind of wide open. I don't think the Packers, the Bears, the Lions are going to be tough.
Yeah.
But they're mortal. The Redskins beat them, so they're mortal. They can be beaten.
Yeah. All right. Okay, let's go back to your background. So you're from Philadelphia, correct?
Indeed. From Ben Franklin to AJ Rice.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And what'd you do in Philadelphia when growing up? You played ball?
So yeah, no, I grew up, in sort of a Irish Catholic blue collar situation. My parents were sort of the first generation to go to college. They're my mother and father's father. Both of my grandfathers were Irish, and they married two German women. So that works out great for me, right?
Yeah.
That's why I've got the great skin, Jim.
Actually, it did work out well for you. Yeah, and the right demeanor too.
Yeah. So yeah, that's right. That's right. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. Anyway, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
There's only one rule with that when you're German and Irish, and that is, and I tell everyone this, is the liver never forgets, right? The liver never forgets. Everything else, you can fudge some things. You can have amnesia, right? Go get yourself a facial or something. Go get yourself a massage. But the liver never forgets. You always got to be careful when you're Irish and German.
Yeah.
So I grew up in the suburbs of Philadelphia, in Northeast Philadelphia. 4-for-4 sports fan. I am extremely parochial. Went to Penn State. I'm a fan of Villanova and some of the. I'm a fan of the new Pope. Obviously, he went to Villanova, and I did a lot of different things in college, high school, and then in graduate school. Kind of a Renaissance man. I worked at wineries. I worked as a writer for some stand-up comics. But I ended up working through a familial connection with a congressional campaign in 2004. So this is 21 years ago. 21 years ago.
Okay. All right. Right. So you're what? You're in your early 20s?
Yes, I was 11. No, I'm just. So, yes, exactly. So it was actually a special election, and it was the gentleman's name was Mike Fitzpatrick. He won the election. I followed him to D.C., and I was on Capitol Hill in the House of Representatives with Mike maybe 9 months before I saw an opening on the Laura Ingraham radio show to basically go in and be a paid intern.
Yeah.
Because I was in graduate school at the time, and I'm in my 40s now, because you can imagine when I'm 24 years old, I look like a 9-year-old that stole his dad's suit. Well, so I go in there.
You must have been unbelievably attractive to women. I mean, I'm looking at you right now.
I'm all washed up. That's right.
You're very attractive.
I told you before the interview started. Beauty is pain. Beauty is pain, my friend.
Yeah, you told me earlier, right?
Yeah, I sleep in one of those hyperbaric chambers that Michael Jackson used to sleep in. Right, that's right. It's like one of those freezers that they put Ted Williams in, and they put Walt Disney's head, I think, in one of them in Arizona.
That's right.
That's right. So Laura hires me, and I'm like her assistant. I'm running around. I'm doing this. I'm booking guests for her on the show. I'm getting her self-tanning lotion. I'm getting her coffee. I'm dodging bullets, because the great lady, she's a tough cookie. She's a tough cookie. But I overperformed, and within 6 months, I was the associate producer of that show. And then I became the executive producer of the show. It's one of those things where she kind of raised me in the media world. Right. I was the youngest executive producer of a top 5 radio show probably ever.
Yeah.
I don't know how old Kit Carson was when he took over Rush Limbaugh's show, but I was 25 going on 26, and I'm running I got 400 stations.
Yeah.
I'm traveling the world with her. I was in Israel. I was here, there, all over the place. And
AJ, I have to ask you this because people are wondering. I know people wonder this a lot. I know the answer to this question, but I want you to talk about it. What does a producer of a national radio show do?
Okay, well, there's different tiers, right? So there's associate producers, there's a technical producer. The technical producer is actually running the board,
right,
and running a clock. When you're on unlike a podcast like this, you have a clock. You have to hit certain markers, right? So I was actually the EP of content. So I helped decide which direction the show would go in. I helped decide what type of guests and topics we wanted to cover. I helped write monologues. I helped write jokes. I wrote questions. You do everything. then they taught me how to become a technical producer. So, I mean, I come from an English literature, political science background. So I don't know, this is 20 years ago now. There's different ways of doing this now, as you can see by Jim and I here on the show. But
Right.
I mean, I was actually being trained by, the technical producer on how to do some of that too. Cutting sound bites and things like that. So, you do all of that, right? It's,
Yeah.
it's all hands on deck. And look, Laura and I clicked, she came from pretty much nothing, got herself into Dartmouth, got herself into UVA Law School, was a speechwriter in the Reagan White House for Bill Bennett, and then went and clerked for Clarence Thomas on the Supreme Court. So she's tough. She's from Connecticut, her mom worked in a diner, and she is still like my big sister to this day. I go on her TV show now. It's funny because, she's my former boss. It's that you get your former boss is interviewing you. That come a long way.
Yeah.
Right. And it's funny because when I go on the show, I talk to her the way I talk to her. I talk to her like this. So she's Ingram. Hey, Ingram. She's asking me questions, and I'm calling her Ingram.
Yeah.
So it's funny. Every time I go on Fox News and do this, people start emailing me or emailing the website. I had this one lunatic call the 1-800 number, and they say this. I swear to God, all right. Well, listen to the voicemail. And look, we have the 1-800 number that's a public number because there's nuts.
Yeah.
There's nuts. They don't like any of those names you rattled off earlier.
No, I know that. I know.
Right. So this nut calls and goes, doesn't say his name or anything. He just says, her name is Laura. Her name is Laura. You're so disrespectful. You think you're tough. You're trying to do some kind of Northeast Irish stuff like O'Reilly. By the way, he calls him O'Reilly. We call him Bill. Bill O'Reilly.
Yeah.
Like O'Reilly used to. It didn't work for him, and it's not going to work for you, Rice. Click. Dude, I thought it was one of my people pranking me, but apparently it was real. Apparently it was real because I got an email from the wacko too. So, Laura and I are pretty tight. She gave me a blurb for my first book. This is the second book behind me, but my first book, The Woking Dead. And then, Laura, we actually got sort of moved off of that show. I had to take more of a sort of a network role where I kind of bumped up to like vice president. So I was no longer producing her. But then I was brought in to produce Monica Crowley's show. And Monica and I, again, just like with Laura, these are like my two big sisters. I was with her for only 2 years. Again, she gave me a blurb for the book. I'm, communicating with them all the time. They're both mentors. They're very different. I call them fire and ice. And, they kind of pull.
Which one's the fire? Which one's the fire?
Monica.
Monica.
Definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. So, Monica's a happy warrior. She'll shiv you with a smile.
Uh-huh.
Right? You know? And look, we want to congratulate Monica here because last week she was sworn in by Marco Rubio as an assistant secretary of state.
Yeah.
An ambassador for protocol, which carries an ambassadorship level position. So, she's in the White House. Half the White House. Look, Publius PR, my day job, is kind of like the Indeed.com for the White House.
Yeah, no shit.
If you hire Publius PR and me, Kevin Bacon, the MAGA Maha Kevin Bacon, right? 1 or 2 degrees of AJ Rice, and you got yourself a job in the White House. Look, you never know. J.D. Vance might be president someday. Donald Trump Jr. might be president someday. Pete Hegseth, my boy, who I never saw drink alcohol. He and I only ever drank, O'Doul's together, right? I've known him for 20 years. You never know. He might run for president. You don't know, Look, I've been in this business a long time, on the Hill, and as a producer for Monica and Laura, and I did a show for John Solomon. I helped Glenn Beck launch the Blaze Radio Network, which included Buck Sexton and Chris Salcedo and some others at the time. And then I started doing this, PR. And I've been doing PR since 2013, 2014, so about a decade.
How'd you make that transition? What
what's
was
that?
How'd you make that
Well,
transition?
it wasn't hard. It wasn't when you're
Ask
when you
to to rep them? Is that what happened?
No, it's not hard. It wasn't hard. It probably should have been. It probably should have been. But, I was just sitting there thinking to myself, because producing some of these shows is kind of a young man's game. But I was like, what else can I do? And when you're producing Ingram, and look, I was overseeing a network that included Mancal and Michael Savage, Jerry Doyle. It included, Dr. Laura Schlesinger, Tammy Bruce, all kinds of people. Ben Shapiro worked there with me. You end up on 1,000 of these lists. You're on our list. So you end up on these lists of PR firms, and you've got, so the audience knows you've got incoming all day long, right? So, if I'm the host of the AJ Rice show, I'm getting emailed all day long. Put this guy on, put that guy on. And I'm just sitting there staring at it, and I'm thinking to myself, why don't I cut out the middleman? Everyone knows me already.
Right.
I could do this.
Right.
I have all the contacts to all the shows from all the affiliates. And look, it doesn't help to have Andrew Breitbart and Monica Crowley and Laura Ingraham in your corner when you first start doing this.
No.
Which I did. So, so I basically reverse engineered. So rather than being, the person answering the door, I'm the person knocking, the person doing the harassing, like we harass you, Jim. We harass you. I don't want to lift your skirt up totally, but ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, no, you do.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, a lot of Jim's guests on this show come from Publicist PR.
That's right. That's correct.
So I'll let you in on another little secret, and I've said this 1,000 times, and none of them have seen it, I guess. All of my competition still have me on their list. Yeah. So I see, because my email hasn't changed. So all of my PR competition are still emailing me to get on Laura's radio show. Yeah, they haven't removed me. I know where everyone's super carriers are parked. I know where every freaking battalion is. I can spring traps at any moment on any of these people. And I say this over and over again on camera, and none of them do anything about it.
Yes.
Because Jimmy Boy, unlike Publius PR and my team, which is a team of killers, Kim and Drew and Sutton and so on, they're lazy. They're lazy. They're lazy. They're in a set it and forget it mode. So that brings me to, so then I start doing PR, right?
Yeah.
And look, things did change when the OG came down the Golden Escalator. Things changed.
Well, hold on. I got to ask you though. You said that producing was a young man's game, and this is not a rhetorical question. Seriously, how the fuck do you do it? I mean, my God, you got all these clients. Your staff is not that big, as far as I can tell. I mean, what are you working like 20 hours a day, 7 days a week? What are you doing?
I mean, I am.
Yeah.
Look, my team, they're tough cookies too. I mean, a lot of them they have producer backgrounds. Right. So they're cut from similar cloth, and I stashed half of them I've got stashed on the West Coast. So they're up doing stuff when Kim and I and Alari and some of my, Kelly and some of my East Coast people shut down. They're just ramping up out there.
Yeah.
I mean, we're in the content business, and there's really no holiday or downtime. There isn't.
Okay, I got another question. You were talking about your competition, and this is not a rhetorical question either. Why are so many people either lazy and or stupid?
Well, and look.
Why?
Well, and it's not just in the PR world. It's pretty much
right. It's pretty much everywhere. I don't get it.
That's right.
But
they are.
Stupid, maybe you can't make up for, but laziness is, all you have to do is work harder. It's not that hard,
Well, I like to think of myself as like a Billy Bean of PR in the sense that, I've, created a system here, and the system is different than the system all these other PR people are using. And I'll just tell you, most of those people out there in the world, they subscribe to a service. It's a database service. And there's a bunch of them. And the contacts that they pitch are only the people in this service. That's it. So they pay a fee and they log on, stoned, eating Little Debbie treats and drinking Dr. Pepper. They log in,
fried
and
chicken.
they hit send. Did I just date myself? They hit send. They hit send, and then it goes out into the ether, and then they go take a siesta, see what comes in. They see what comes in. Whereas, look, I created my own database. I created my own system. I am the database.
Yeah.
And each one of my people come from different walks of life where they actually came to Publius with their own proprietary list. Right?
Yeah.
So like if you're a client of ours, one of our people will pitch you and you'll get certain shows, but then if I rotate the client to someone else, they'll get different shows.
Right.
And I've got a board here that looks like something out of Minority Report, and I'm looking at it like 4D chess, and I'm moving pieces around constantly, right? To see who needs love, who needs hits, who needs that, And look, it doesn't hurt to have the amount of stars, platinum records on the wall, New York Times bestsellers, and this and that, because our currency is relationships.
Right.
So when you help Donald Trump Jr. get on the New York Times bestseller list, I mean, that in and of itself is PR. So we do PR for ourselves. I mean, and that's we'll get to this in a minute, but that's partially the reason these books exist. Is so that, because here's the thing, Jim, no one wants a coach who doesn't play the game. So most of these PR people, they sit in their little freaking Venetian blinded cubicle, farting, doing whatever they're doing, right? Whereas I'm in the arena. You get RFK Jr.'s book, the Fauci book. You help RFK Jr. become a New York Times bestseller. That means something.
Yeah.
You do it with Pete Hegseth. You do it with Newt Gingrich. You do it with Dr. Ben Carson. You do it with Tulsi Gabbard. You do it with Monica Crowley. You do it with, Victor Davis Hanson, Alan Dershowitz, whoever it is. And as you do that, it's one of those things where a force multiplier starts to happen.
Right. It's exponential. Correct.
Now, I rarely have to come down out of the castle and whack someone. Our performance has put people out of business.
Yeah.
I have rarely had to come down and put a toe tag on someone lately. We just sort of let the production speaks for itself. Right?
Yeah. Well,
so because look, there's enough room here for everyone to eat. I don't really have competition anymore.
No, you don't.
They're either horse trading with me, or they're 6 feet under. It's one of the. And look, I'm Catholic. I got plenty of pairs of what do we call them in Philadelphia? Cement shoes. I got plenty of cement shoes left in the closet to fit someone with if I need to. But lately I haven't had to really need to do that. And I'm going to tell you one other thing that happened. Okay, and then this sort of brings you closer to the modern era here. When Trump came down the golden escalator, the OG, the audience will recall that he had to scalp 16, 17, 18 different people from 2015 to 2016 in that Republican primary. He had the big kids table in those debates, and he had the little kids table where they had like George Pataki and Rick Santorum and these different people. And he slowly, one by one, scalped them all. And he nailed their scalps to the wall till he finally got to Ted Cruz, and then he had to go after Ted Cruz. So you have to understand something. I have been in the swamp for 20 years. And I am not a swamp creature. I am immune. I live in Virginia, but I go in there. I read a story, Jim, in the BBC a couple months ago about these radioactive dogs that live inside of Chernobyl.
Yeah. I saw that.
Right. And they've been breeding with each other. And these dogs have developed an X-Men gene. These dogs have developed, they have superpowers, these dogs. And they're immune to the radiation.
Right.
So that's what I am, Jim, here in Washington, D.C., with the establishment, with the uniparty, with the swamp, with the sewer rats. I am one of the Chernobyl radioactive dogs, and I'm immune to these people. I'm immune. Okay? Maybe that's my next book title, Radioactive Dogs.
I was going to say, do you think that's your greatest strength? The fact that you're basically an outsider?
An outsider that's behind the wall.
Yeah,
sure.
Right.
But here's what happened. And you can imagine this. All the other PR firms in town here, some of them, big shots, right? As Dice, what did Dice used to call these? Big shot. Well, these people, they were big shots, okay? They were big shots. They threw in with, Rand Paul. They were big shots. They threw in with Jeb Bush. They were big shots. Well, we didn't. We threw in with Trump immediately. Now, there's a lot of reasons why we did. I have known Trump in my mind since I was 8 years old listening to Howard Stern.
Uh-huh.
Don't tell my mom I was listening to Howard when I was 8. But if you watch enough interviews with me, you'll pretty much deduce that I've been listening to Howard Stern since I was 8. I don't listen to him now because he's lost his mind. But Howard Stern and I share a birthday. Rush Limbaugh and I share a birthday. We were all born different years, same day. And Ingram used to call me the radio antichrist for that purpose. That's why she knew she had to hire me as her executive producer. But you have to understand something. All these consultants, all these money grubbers, all these these different people here in town, government relations firms, law firms that do opposition research on people, they all threw in with everyone except the one that won. Donald John Trump. The OG comes down the golden escalator. The world was never the same. So, because I put my chips down early, I've been with him the whole time. And because of that, I was able to get Judge Jeanine Pirro's book, not her first book, but her first book in this era of Trump. And I've done 4 of these now in a row. 4 Judge Jeanine books. She gave me a blurb for my first book. I was texting with her last week about her new appointment here in town. Hopefully I'll go meet up with her soon. But I will tell you, the Jeanine book got me the Donald Trump Jr. book. And then once I just started like Pac-Man picking these MAGA people off.
Right.
And understand that these other PR firms here in town, they threw in with a lot of the disgruntled books. In the first term, come out of the White House, Jim Comey book and, Anonymous and John Bolton and, the mustache. And, so I have been there since then. And, it just exponentially has sort of been a rising tide of this stuff. I had no idea that I would get a phone call in 2023, late 2022. And asked to help out on Bobby RFK Jr.'s books. So I started doing that. And at that point, we're talking 3-4 years ago. I was working with both Trump and RFK Jr. before. First of all, I didn't talk about it at the time.
Yeah.
You could, if you were shrewd enough, you could figure it out. But I was helping Donald Trump Sr. and Jr. and Sergio Gore. They have an imprint called Winning Team Publishing. So I'm helping out on those books, and that's like MTG and Carrie Lake and Charlie Kirk and Peter Navarro. I'm working on that, and I'm helping Bobby. Then I got hired to help Bobby with his super PAC. Then I get a phone call from Vivek Ramaswamy's campaign, ask if I could help out putting their surrogates in media. So I said, all right. So there was like an 18-month period from late 22 into 24, where I was working for RFK Jr., Trump, and Vivek all at the same time. So I was the general manager of, the Minnesota Twins, the Philadelphia Phillies, and the New York Yankees all at the same time, right?
Yeah, right.
Didn't talk about it till it was over.
Hey, AJ, did those campaigns know that themselves among each other? Did they know that you were working for all of them?
I have no idea. They do now.
Yeah.
They do now. I mean, I don't spike the football till it's over, till it. But they, progressively, Vivek shut down his campaign. I mean, these things sort of spin out organically.
Yeah.
We're like 7-Eleven, right? We might not be doing business, but we're always open. And
Yeah.
the reality too is that these were, and DeSantis too, although we didn't work with him, these were the main anti-woke guys. These were the main anti-globalist guys. So why wouldn't we, you want Derek Jeter in your lineup?
Yeah.
Right? You want Kirby Puckett in your lineup? I'm here for you. So, and we were doing different things with them. We were not doing all the same thing. But I got to tell you, when I saw RFK Jr. on stage together, this is a huge moment for Publius PR. Because we played a part in that.
Yeah, you won twice.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And then look, and this was never supposed to be this way. And then when they start doing the cabinet, I mean, if I sent you the list is crazy, and it gets longer by the day. I mean, just at the top, Scott Bessent's our client, Treasury Secretary. Tulsi is our client. Hegseth, Michael Waltz. And then you work your way down, like undersecretaries of the Navy and the Air Force and, general staff. Monica's now in there. Tammy Bruce is the spokesman for Rubio. I mean, if I sent you the list, you'd be like, oh my, Vivek was part of Doge.
You keep talking about your competition. It seems to me that basically you have a monopoly now. It's like you are representing pretty much
totally
of anyone. Yeah, I know. And the thing is, legally monopolies, you have 80% of the market, but that would be hard to figure out in what you do. But for all practical purposes, it seems like you do. I mean, you represent everybody of any import anyway.
Believe it or not, the never Trumper PR firms still exist. They are still putting their authors on CNN and MSNBC. They missed history unfold here. They're still looking at their watch, waiting for Trumpism to go away. They're like the last Japanese soldier. I think the last one emerged 1972. He comes out.
Yeah.
His name was like Hiroshi Unadi or something. The last Japanese soldier that comes up, he still thinks World War II is going on.
Yeah, and he knows where.
It's over. It's over. You lost.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. And look, Trump is a counterculture icon. We are not going back.
No, we're not.
If Lincoln was the great emancipator and Reagan was the great communicator, Trump is the great disruptor of wokeism and globalism. And for all this talk about the Great Reset, well, you got one. You got one, mofo. Trump came in and reset your ass. So now, and look, this is why they were always after him. This is why there were 2 impeachments. This is why there were 4 indictments, 4 jurisdictional indictments. This is why there were probably 2 assassins on the field, because Trump doesn't just come alone. He had to be stopped. And he's got a picture of Reagan in his office because he's, tipping his hat to him. But this was the end of Reaganism.
Yeah.
Trump's emergence, because Trump cherry picks Reagan, but he also cherry picks JFK. He cherry picks Andrew Jackson. He cherry picks Ross Perot, Pat Buchanan, a little bit of Ralph Nader, dare I say a little bit of Bernie Sanders. They're all there. And of course, RFK Jr., they're all there. So you have a new entity. He has made the Republican Party more working class, more multi-ethnic. And, the Chamber of Commerce can't take it.
No, they can't.
They're having a freaking heart attack. But this is it, because they were never just after him. They were worried about, listen, and I used to talk to the woman. I used to book her as a guest on Laura's show. The Democrat Party rolled out the Cheney family to tell America that they should vote for Kamala Harris. So Trump rolls out Tulsi Gabbard, former Democrat, who endorsed Bernie Sanders for president, just like Joe Rogan did. Trump rolls out Joe Rogan. He rolls out the richest man on the planet who used to only give the Democrats most electric cars ever sold in the United States. And he rolls out the oldest male heir of the most famous Democrat family of the 20th century, Kennedy. So he's standing there, and other people came on, Naomi Wolf and other people came along, especially with the, health freedom movement. And the Democrats are standing there with the Cheneys and crying Adam Kinzinger. Okay?
Yeah.
So that's what they have. Trump's got Rogan, Musk, Gabbard, RFK Jr. So look, Trump went to the places where votes could be found. New votes, different votes, flippable votes. And he did it with issues. He did it with personality. He also did it with the venues he picked. And Barron and Don Jr. helped with that. Going on with Rogan, going on with Andrew Schultz, going on with Theo Vaughn and so on. These big sort of large format, manosphere, they call it manosphere. And he found the 6% of undecided voters because they weren't hiding at the Wall Street Journal editorial page. They weren't hiding at the Chamber of Commerce. They weren't hiding at National Review. Ooh, what's National Review think about this?
Yeah.
Is anyone waking up anymore asking that? And God bless them. I've got freaking clients over there. They're nice enough people.
Yeah.
Like Tucker says, you have to ask yourself, ladies and gentlemen, are you going to follow the people that have been wrong about everything for the last decade?
Nothing. I find nothing funnier than all the rhinos that think we can just wait this out, and when Trump leaves, we're going to go back to the way it was. They do not. Right. You're talking about disruption. They do not understand what's going on. That's not going to happen ever.
And they're not. And they're not going to be able to. There's some of them. I guess they had all their hopes and dreams tied up with Mike Pence. A lot of them, I guess.
Hey, I gotta ask you.
But they're as scared as JD Vance as they are of Trump. JD Vance is not their guy.
Right. Absolutely. Right. In 28, the Republicans are going to have to make a big decision between Vance and Rubio, and it's a win-win situation for the public anyway. Unfortunately, somebody loses, but do you disagree with that, or?
Yeah, I don't think Rubio is going to run for president.
Oh, you don't? Oh, okay. Yeah. Interesting.
No, I think he could end up being someone's running mate for sure.
Yeah, right. And so I got to get back to the thing you were just talking. You just said this in passing about getting booking guests on CNN. So, what do you think of this thing with Jake Tapper? First of all, I got to ask you point blank: would you represent this guy's book? Would you do it?
Tapper, yes, but not for the content reason of the book. Okay. I told you at the beginning of this interview that I'm from Philadelphia.
Yeah.
That I'm a Phillies, Eagles, Flyers, Sixers fan. And all my friends dunk on me all the time. They make fun of me. They're like, AJ, he's such a parochial lunatic from Philadelphia. He can make excuses of all forms of bad behavior if they're from Philadelphia. Oh, Hitler's from Philadelphia. He's fine. He's a nice guy. Hey, he's a painter. He's a great painter, right? and back before the Eagles started winning Super Bowls, it was just like, I don't care if Saddam Hussein is the quarterback. I'm rooting for the Eagles. I don't give a,
Right.
So I'm ride or die there. I'm ride or die. Tapper is an Eagles fan. He is from Philadelphia.
I didn't know that. I did not know
Yes.
that. Yeah. Uh-huh.
And you'll notice even Jesse Waters, who's from rival high school to my own, Jesse doesn't lay gloves on Tapper either, because there's an unspoken sort of omerta style sort of code among all of us. We rarely will hit each other. I mean, there's been times where I've made fun of Chris Matthews for sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Chris Matthews grew up in Norristown, Philly, and then Norristown. He grew up right near where Tommy Lasorda grew up. Mike Piazza grew up. So, Bradley Cooper is actually from that area, over that direction. So it takes a lot for me to hammer a Philadelphia person. Now, one that I have hammered, because she betrayed us, is Taylor Swift. Okay? She was an Eagles fan. Her father's an Eagles fan. She's from Wyomissing, Pennsylvania. She grew up on the main line out near like where Michelle Malkin and Juan Williams and Michael Medved and some of these, they all grew up that, Kobe Bryant grew up that way. And she's going in the studio wearing Eagles gear until she starts dating Travis Kelce. Right now she's a Chiefs fan, right?
But you're not going to forgive her for love? I mean, the only reason she switched is because of love. I mean,
the question is, like, do I dislike her because she endorsed Kamala, or do I dislike her because of the Chiefs?
Yeah. What's the answer?
The Chiefs. The Chiefs, right?
Yeah.
The hell with Andy Reid. Andy Reid went to 5 NFC championship games. He won one of them with Donovan McNabb, and then he lost the Super Bowl. Okay, then he goes to the Chiefs, and he wins all these Super Bowls, including one against us. Now we're 1-for-1 against him. Okay, he won one, and we got him. We got him this year. So now look, I'm just busting balls. I mean, the reality is that Tapper. Yeah, I'd help Tapper. But let me just make because I haven't been asked to help Tapper. Let me make a point about this.
Yeah.
And I think Jon Stewart made this point. It's a good point. These are journalists that were closer to the mark, were closer to the politician than a lot of us were, especially Fox News people or conservatives. They were around Biden, and Tapper knows Biden. Here's the thing. Tapper is a left-of-center guy from Philly. Biden, Tapper was at ABC before CNN. Biden's wife is from Philadelphia, Jill. Biden was taking that freaking train, the Acela train, going up and down from D.C. to Wilmington. Tapper's on the train. Biden's from Scranton, right? And here's the thing. Your audience may be shocked about this. The president, although he wasn't president at the time, that I've interacted with the most is Joe Biden. Because Joe Biden never met a green room he didn't like. Joe Biden used to graze across the green rooms of Washington, D.C. I can't tell you how many times I was in a green room with Ingram or with Monica, and they're doing hair and makeup, and Biden's sitting there waiting to go on with someone, Chris Wallace or, O'Reilly or whatever the hell it was, right? Brit Hume, whoever it was, always. And, the guy was like an Irish ball-busting, Uncle Cracker type guy.
Yeah.
And he was sharp. He was.
Yeah.
And I was around him maybe a dozen times in my 20 years, even a couple times when he was vice president too. And that is not the same guy that we were watching.
Right.
Tapper had to have been around him. If AJ Rice was around him a dozen times, Tapper had to have been around him
way more.
500 times. At least. They knew he was shot. They knew. They played a game because he was their guys wearing their freaking jersey. And they were going to ride it out until Trump came in that debate and just, ripped the emperor's clothes off and just, shined the freaking bat signal down on it. And they couldn't lie anymore. Everyone saw it.
Yeah. Hey, I have to ask you, though. I have to ask
go ahead.
About that actual debate.
Uh-huh.
Why did Biden do it? Supposedly the line is he insisted he wanted to do it early. It was the earliest presidential debate ever. But I wonder, was he pushed to do it because somebody wanted to reveal his?
Yeah, I've heard the setup. I've heard the setup theory. Set him up early, get him out early.
Right? Exactly.
But then, if you're going to do that, you got to have a better backup plan than Kamala. You should have had a brokered convention, or you should have had a primary or something.
Yeah.
And they didn't do that. They just inserted, the first Indian and the first Jamaican and the first Jamaican jerk chicken and the first samosa maker and the first Lejeune cook and whatever the hell else. But I don't buy that. I think hubris.
Right. That's what I was wondering too. Right.
I think the 2020 election was a dress rehearsal of authoritarianism, and I think they were fully prepared to do it again.
Right.
We have him debate once. He needs to just get through it. Remember, he didn't do anything for 6 days, and he's he's getting injections.
I also wonder if they knew he was progressing, and if they waited longer, he would be worse. I wonder about that.
So he was insulated. There was about a dozen staffers that ran interference, including the wife and Hunter, and they were perfectly okay with parking him again in the basement, and see if they can come up with another 81 million votes like they did in 2020. And miraculously, 10 million of them vanished. I don't know where they went. Maybe they self-deported. I don't know. I don't know whether they're at the morgue.
The dead people
didn't. They might be at the bottom of the Potomac River. I don't know where they're at. I don't know where they're at, but they vanished. And the rest is history. That's the thing. The Democrats are now working on a situation, and I'm by no means, I'm not here to give them advice. I want them to keep doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
And we'll keep winning elections. But since the 2008 primary with John Edwards and Hillary Clinton and Barack, they haven't had a real primary since then. Not a real one. Not really.
I never thought about that, but you're absolutely right. That's true.
If you go to 2012, Obama's the nominee. If you go to 2016, Obama talks Joe into not running because his son died.
Right.
And they send Hillary out there. She gets anointed. They weren't expecting Bernie to catch fire. But as Donna Brazil catalogs in her book, they rigged those primaries to help Hillary. They gave Hillary debate questions before the debate. Debbie Wasserman Schultz and the DNC rigged the convention with these super delegates to make sure Bernie's people couldn't get any votes.
Right.
So they rigged that election against Bernie Sanders. And lo and behold, and I've been saying this for a decade now, lo and behold, 2 weeks ago, Bernie Sanders is on with Andrew Schultz on his podcast, and Schultz basically says this to him. And Bernie agrees. Bernie agrees. Because if you fast forward again to 2020, you have a situation where, I don't know whether you remember this, but Mayor Pete and Bernie Sanders were at the top of the Iowa caucus. Then they go to New Hampshire, and no one knows who won. Do you remember this?
No, actually, I don't. I don't remember.
They couldn't remember who won the New Hampshire primary. And this is where the machine kicked in again. Because it was after Iowa with Bernie and Mayor Pete. Go to New Hampshire. There's no winner.
Oh, AJ, wasn't that they didn't? No one remembered. It's that no one they didn't quote unquote figure it out. Wasn't that what it was, or is that how they put it? They couldn't decide
Well,
who is like they couldn't figure out who won, or that's what they
well,
said.
Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders both are in neighboring states, and they were kept from winning somehow. And that brings me to the moment that the deep state shows up, or whoever, Democrat Party bosses. Because somewhere there in that 3 weeks between New Hampshire and South Carolina, all of a sudden, people are getting out of the race. There goes Amy Klobuchar.
Right, I remember that.
There goes Mayor Pete.
Mm-hmm.
So these people start. Kamala's already gone. She couldn't even make it to 2020.
Oh, that's right.
Right. Crazy Eyes Corey, he's out of the race. Cory Booker. They were lining things up so that the last king of Clyburn, James Clyburn, the last king of Scotland, Idi Amin, the House of Representatives has their very own Idi Amin. And he's got this little tiny district in North Charleston where no white people live. And he's been able to sit there for 40 years.
Yeah.
He makes the endorsement of Biden. And the House closes ranks. The black vote closes ranks. Obama's involved because they're going to say to themselves, oh my God, Bernie, or maybe this gay mayor, may win. So they promised Pete something to get rid of him. So now it's just Bernie and Biden. And, even Michael Bloomberg showed up briefly there and then he left.
Yeah.
And you'll recall, this was the moment that they rigged this again against Bernie. So then once he won South Carolina, they parked him in the basement in Delaware and they plugged him into the extension cord and they just ran the table then. Bernie won some things, but not like he did against Hillary. And they eventually got him to get out of the race. And here you have again a rigged primary.
Yeah.
Then you fast forward to this time where you've got a situation where Biden goes out there through hubris, through insulation again, and, Trump decapitates him in the debate, and they don't let the voters decide again, right?
Yeah.
They just anoint her. She's got 100 days, 100-day campaign. She somehow figures out how to spend $1.3 billion in 100 days. She still was in debt, by the way.
Yeah.
That's how much she spent. Where did it go?
Yeah.
You know how much money, dude? We'll talk about.
I do.
You know how much? Listen to me. These consultants, they have yachts now. They didn't care whether she was 100 days, $1 billion flushed down the toilet. They were lighting this on fire. Money was being lit on fire, Jim. They went to Vegas. They rented that freaking sphere thing.
Yeah.
They stuck her ugly face in it. They were running her face in that thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
They stuck the first Indian and the first Jamaican and the first woman, the woman that's never had a baby, and this and they stuck her in there. Can you imagine? Can you imagine trying to land a plane at McLaren, and you're looking out the window and you see that face? That face is looking up at you. You're freaking skid. Listen to me. You're gonna skid off the runway, and the plane will end up in the Bellagio fountain.
You're right.
So this is what they did.
AJ, I gotta ask you as an aside. I mean, you're really plugged in here. Is she as stupid as she looks?
It appears so.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I thought too. But I want to.
So. And look, she obviously has low self-esteem. I mean, look. Here's the thing. She couldn't even find a husband until like a couple weeks ago. No one would marry the woman.
That's right.
No one would marry the woman. I mean, she's obviously a nightmare. I mean, say what you want about Hillary. She's been married for like 40 years, 50 years. So, she found a husband on layaway. And, he was exactly the construct that she needed.
Yeah.
He's got Hollywood money and this and that.
Right.
Got the wacko daughter. He likes to, knock up the nanny and slap ex-girlfriends in the face. He's the face of masculinity.
That's right.
That's what the Washington Post told us.
Yeah.
So look, she may try again, but the Democrat Party, they've got a problem.
Yes, they do.
And they have not had a real primary. And when they do, and they see it going the wrong way, they rig it.
Yeah.
So say what you want about the Republicans, as much as Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan and John Boehner and the Bushes and the this schmuck and that schmuck, Trump was the nominee 3 times. That's only been done by Nixon and not consecutively. Nixon was the nominee in 1960, and then he,
right,
in 68 and then 72, but not in a row. So, I mean, Trump is in rarefied air here, not just as a Republican, but as a president winning non-consecutive terms. And Grover Cleveland did it. But what you're getting now, because of all of this, it's not just because America sent someone. And look, America has an uncanny ability to produce the exact person we need at the exact moment we need it. I don't care whether it's Andrew Jackson or Ulysses S. Grant or JFK or Reagan or whoever the hell it is.
Yeah.
And some people read the room and saw it, and some wackos didn't. And they're still, like we said earlier, they're still fighting the never Trumpers. They're still. Trump is like white blood cells flying towards an infection. That's what he's like. And look.
Well, I have to ask you, did you see it right away? Did you know?
Yeah.
Did you right
Absolutely.
away? Think
Absolutely.
Okay.
Disruption.
Right.
Disruption.
Right.
Immediately.
Right.
Unlike the first time where he rolls in here, and look, you have to understand too, Trump is the only president ever elected that never was elected to another office anywhere else.
Right.
Or had not been a general.
Right. Only Eisenhower, but Eisenhower was in the military, right? He was the head of the army.
A lot of that. There's a lot. There's more than just Eisenhower.
Right.
Zachary Taylor, George Washington, Ulysses S. Grant. None of these guys, Eisenhower, these, maybe William Henry Harrison. John Tyler. Maybe there's a few out there that they never held office, but they were commanders in the Mexican-American War, the Civil War, whatever the hell it was, right?
Yeah.
So, but that's it. He's the only guy. He's the only guy. And unlike the first term, he rolls in here with a team of disruptors. Because he learned the first time where he comes with the Tillersons and the H.R. McMasters and this spy and that spy and, Scaramucci and all these freaking people that should have been nowhere near the White House. They were there. He rolls in with a team of disruptors. And there's no sunlight between them. That's why they're trying to get in there.
Yeah.
They're trying to get Cash, and they're trying to get Bondi, and they're trying to get Hegseth or Betson or whoever the hell it is. They're trying to find where the leaks are. And I'm telling you right now, as someone that communicates with all these White House people all the time, there's no sunlight. They are interlocked, shield to spear, like the 300.
Right. And the irony is that if for the Democrats, by denying him the second consecutive term, it probably made it a lot worse for them in the sense that he had 4 years to think about what he was going to do next, And you're getting the MAGA Avengers now. Yeah, right.
And you're getting RFK Jr.
Yeah.
Right? And the richest man on earth thinks you're a disgrace, and the most listened to podcast in the world thinks you're a disgrace. So, and you are a disgrace. And I read, and I know we're here to talk about the book, but this is more fun. I will tell you, I mean, just the other day I see the Democrat Party has met in secret, and they formed some kind of group that's called like studying the American male, or a discussion with the American male.
So
and they're going to put $20 million. That's it, by the way.
Yeah.
They just let Kamala burn $1 billion. They're going to spend $20 million to find out how to win young males back. know?
Yeah.
How about you start with the fact that there isn't 72 freaking genders? Maybe you
Right.
should start there.
Right.
Here's the thing. The Democrat Party that has been led by this sort of third and fourth wave feminism, it's not just the Me Too movement, it's more than that. For the last decade, as the millennials have turned 40 and Gen Z's turning 30 now, they have basically put males into two categories. At best, men are unneeded, and at worst, men are sexual predators, toxic scumbag,
Right. That's right.
POSs.
Right.
So
That's a very good way to put it, too. At the very best, men are unneeded. That's right.
So, and you know what? It's not just white men.
No, it isn't.
Hispanic Catholic males don't want any part of them.
Right.
And Trump just got the biggest share of African American males ever.
Yeah.
Since Eisenhower. So you blew it, to quote Bobby De Niro in Copland. And I don't know. And I don't know whether you're going to be able to get it back. You got a real problem, because for all your talk about white privilege and toxic masculinity and the patriarchy and on and on and on, the subtitle of this book is Bringing Racial Harmony to Very Fine People on Both Sides. And I just want to give a shout out to all the very fine people watching today. But I will tell you, there's only one person that brought racial harmony. How is it that Donald Trump was able to get the Muslims in Dearborn, Michigan to vote the same way as the Jews in the suburbs of Philadelphia?
Yeah.
How did he get all these how did he increase with African American males in Atlanta and Phoenix and Philly and Detroit? How did he do it? Green Bay. How did he do it? How was he able? So there were two blue walls that went down. One that went down in the Great Lakes region, the Rust Belt, right? Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin. So that collapsed. But there's a second blue wall. The second blue wall runs, from El Paso to Corpus Christi, Texas. Okay? Where all those counties were all Democrat counties. And now they're all red. So what did you do? How did Trump win Nevada for the first time since George W. Bush in 2004? Hispanic Catholics, yes. Also, the SEIU union, which is supposed to be left-wing, they heard no tax on tips. The Service Employees International Union that runs all the freaking casinos, all the bartenders, all the, the ladies of the night. No, I'm joking. My point is, he built a new coalition because we were no longer going to win drinking our green tea, eating our tapioca pudding, going to war with the heroes that were captured, John McCain, the heroes that weren't captured, Mitt Romney. We were never going to win again with the Mitt Romney, Mitch McConnell world. So we had to do something else. So Trump rebuilt a different coalition.
I read your book, of course. It's fantastic. I do have just a little logistical question. Did you mention somewhere, because I didn't pick it up, why you chaptered the book based on months? Did I miss something there? Or?
Yeah. So the book has 12 chapters, ladies and gentlemen. It runs from January to December. These are the 12 months of privilege. Okay? Yeah. Go to the table of contents. And what I did with the book is I went through an entire calendar year defending the West, defending Western civilization, defending the middle class, defending the nuclear family. So, and I defend our traditions, our holidays. So obviously the 11th chapter is November. I'm defending Thanksgiving and the Pilgrims. And so, right? So Columbus Day is in October, the 10th chapter. So you go through all the chapters, and I go through an entire calendar year of this garbage as touchstones, because as you know, homeboy, I'm a multi-level marketer here. So of course I did it. There's some formula I created, right? Always a formula, because you could go through and look, that allows you to jump around. You don't have to read it cover to cover. You can jump to June, and you can hear about Juneteenth and Pride Month
Yeah.
Because I know we're going to be celebrating Pride Month and Juneteenth on this show with the very fine people any minute.
I don't know if you know this, AJ. I used to work for a gay organization, so actually that actually brings me up. Being from Philadelphia, so it's a Democratic stronghold. Have you always been conservative, like going back to a kid? Or did you? Oh, you have, huh? Interesting.
Well, I mean, look, I'm Irish Catholic, so I'm like a South Park Tarantino conservative. Like I've never been Mr. Goody Two Shoes. I'm a rule breaker. I'm a disruptor myself.
Right.
So have I always been a right winger? Yes. I volunteered helping Bob Dole in '96 and George W. Bush in 2000, and so yeah. And I grew up listening. I'm a Rush baby. I'm a millennial. I'm an older millennial. I'm a geriatric millennial. But I grew up with Limbaugh, right? And talk radio, Michael Savage and Levin and Howard and Opie and Anthony and some of the politically incorrect comedy type stuff. I mean, I grew up with Rodney Dangerfield and Dice. I grew up with Dennis Leary. I grew up with South Park and The Simpsons, right? So, it's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I like comedy with no rules.
Yeah. Well, that's the best comedy. There's just no doubt about it. I ask you that because I've always wanted somebody to do a survey. As far as I can tell, this has never been done, of a poll of how many conservatives were former liberals, and also vice versa. But I don't think my experience is there are very few conservatives became liberals. I know I'm a former liberal.
Well, I mean, they go that direction. I mean, obviously, some of these never Trumper types, in order to stay relevant and get on CNN, they, Bill Kristol and the dogs that are on all fours, they'll say whatever.
Well, right. That's the thing. I don't, they will say.
That's a new phenomenon, and that's Trump. That's Trump related, right?
It is derangement, right? Yeah.
I mean, there were some people like David Brock who founded Media Matters. He was like a gay conservative activist that became a left-wing one. I mean, Ariana Huffington was a right-winger.
Yeah.
She used to run around this town with Laura. Her and Laura were buddies. And I think they still are. But they were like party girls.
Yeah.
Like they were running around this town in the Reagan era and the Bush Senior era, wearing freaking animal print mini skirts and drinking cocktails. And, she was a right winger and then became a left winger. And now she's some kind of, she's on the, I don't know whether you know this. She's on the board of Uber, so she doesn't have to work ever again. She was given shares. She was part of the whole Uber fiasco when they went. There's a TV show about it. Uma Thurman plays Ariana, but I mean, she's now like a sleep guru and like got into like Eastern meditation and this and that. She wrote a book on how to get a good night's sleep or something. Anyway, so she sold the Huffington Post to AOL.
Yeah.
Who then bought it. Time Warner bought it, so Warner Brothers owns it.
Right.
They own CNN as well. So yeah, I mean, look, there are people like that over the years that did that. But not a lot. Not a lot of big ones.
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about you. I know way more people that are former liberals that became conservative than vice versa. I personally only know two people in my personal world that were former conservatives that became liberal. And the interesting thing about those two guys, they have one thing in common. They worked in huge corporate environments, and they both kind of saw the way their employees were treated by the big bad machine. I think that influenced their worldview.
And look, a lot of plenty of people when they're young, they're liberal. When they're old, they're conservative.
Right. That's a standard thing, right?
But the Reagan Revolution and the MAGA era, the inverse was true. The young people, the Alex P. Keaton young people in the 80s, they were all for Reagan. And obviously, Trump's, Charlie Kirk's army and some of the stuff that goes on now, a lot of these young people, especially if they're white, although it's been cutting across into Hispanics and Asians and everything else.
Yes.
They're pro-MAGA because, they don't want to be told what to do. They don't want to be told what to eat. They don't want to be told what to inject into their bodies. This actually used to be bodily autonomy used to be the Democrats' bread and butter, but no
Right.
longer.
Yeah, they gave it up. I know.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know. I tell you what, AJ, I think let's call this, okay? Are you good? Anything
We're
else
good.
you want to say about your book? I do want to point out that both this book, your current one, the White Privilege album, and The Woking Dead were both on the New York Times bestseller list. The first book's really cool too. And you're right. I did not read either one cover to cover. It was very easy to skip around. So it was pretty cool. And you're
Yeah, look, I come from the short attention span theater generation. Right?
yeah. Yeah.
So and look, I write these things. They're political humor books because, as Limbaugh used to say, if you can use irreverent humor or absurdity to illustrate truth, you can convert way more people with humor than you can just raining down fire and brimstone all the time.
Right. And there's one thing, just going full circle here, you were talking about the fact that you're a coach that plays, and of course in sports that you really can't do that, but here you're doing it. I mean, it's a mental world, and you're both coaching and playing. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm not telling you to pull your chain. I truly admire what you've done. It's really amazing.
Thank you, sir.
And I don't. Once again, I don't see how you put up with your schedule, but whatever. I shouldn't say that. I was working the way you were working 20 years ago, but I couldn't do it now. I couldn't keep up Trump's schedule. I don't understand.
Well, this isn't. I mean, look, this isn't me. This is an AI facsimile talking.
Of course it is. Right. I know. That's right. Yeah.
Hologram.
That's the reason your skin is so perfect.
That's right. I'm totally photoshopped right now. Anyway.
AJ,
All right,
thank you so much. I can't thank you
pleasure.
enough. You take care.
Hey, you're a patriot. You keep fighting. All right. We'll talk soon.
You too. Thanks. Hi, all. I want to talk to you about Conk News. You've probably heard me talk about this before, but if you're a news junkie, you should try this out. Conk News is a news aggregator. Now, there are plenty of news aggregators on the web, but Conk News is different than all the rest, and here's how. Most other news aggregators will lump the top stories from each news source under that news source. The top 10 stories, like, for example, from Fox News, Breitbart, the New York Post, etc. What Conk News does is it sends its servers out onto the web to over 75 different news sources every 3 hours. And yes, this is an automated process, but in this case, that's actually a good thing. And collects the latest stories from said 75 sources and then lays them out on its own front page in the order they were posted, regardless of the source. So you see the latest stories at the top of the front page, regardless of where they're from. And this is all free to you. You don't need to log in. You don't need to subscribe, register, nothing. It's completely free. All you have to do is go to conk.com to check it out. That's conk.com, 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 Conk News. Thanks to AJ Rice there. Oh, no, didn't want to show that yet. There we go. Yeah, it's a big steel ball, but we'll talk about that in a second. Not my balls. Yeah, thanks to AJ. That was very entertaining. And also, we learned a little bit, didn't we? Yeah. Anyway, yeah, that was fantastic. Just very happy to have him on. Very cool guy. And also very cool to be associated with him too. Now, he said at the top of the interview there, toward the beginning, that his staff is helping me book this show now, and for the first time ever, we're booked for guests a whole month ahead of time. We're all the way into July, and so that's pretty cool too. And some damn interesting people like Anton Chaikin, who's coming on tomorrow. That's one of their guests, one of their bookings. So yeah, a lot of people. A lot of cool people. I'm very, very happy. Now, what I'm not happy about is the fact that when we started this show about an hour and a half ago, about 75 minutes ago, it was 91 degrees here in Minneapolis, which is the reason you'll notice during the um, interview, which we did around 2 o'clock today, I wore a coat. I'm not wearing one now because it's hot as fuck in here. It wasn't at 2 o'clock. I don't know. It was 91 degrees then too. I don't know. It took a little while for the heat to build up in here. I don't know. I got a window in here. I don't like to open it because of the sound. It's cracked open right now. I took the coat off. Now here's the amazing thing. I always bitch about the weather here in Minneapolis, and for damn good reason. Here's an example. The high today was 91. It's 91 right now. Tomorrow the high is going to be 65. What? Huh? Yeah. 25 degrees lower. Yeah, sure. That's a good idea. Okay. I'm not Mother Nature. This is part 2 of our show. We talk about kind of like weird crazy news here. Got a few things. Okay, let's start with this. And this reminds me of as I said at the top of the interview with AJ, it's hard to exaggerate his influence on conservative media. I mean, he is truly everywhere. It's not an exaggeration. Here's something else that's not an exaggeration. Fox News's ratings. Now, I talk about this all the time, and I don't think people believe it because they are so dominating the television landscape. It's mind-boggling. Right now, Fox has on an average night has 6 times the viewers of CNN. Not 60%, 600%. They have 6 times CNN's viewers, 5 times MSNBC's viewers. Last month for May, they were the number 2 television network in America. I'm not talking about cable networks, all of them. There was ABC, and then Fox News, and then NBC, and then CBS. Got that? And you have to pay to watch Fox News. Now, this is going to be really interesting. Sometime before Labor Day, they're going to release an app called Fox One. And this is kind of, I don't know if you've heard about this. CNN's doing the same thing, and they're going to do it about the same time. And they're going to basically they're going what's called direct-to-consumer, DTC. So you will be able to sign up for Fox News, and that includes Fox Sports, all the Fox Corporation television properties, or if you want to, ESPN, all the ESPN channels you can get separate from a cable package. Excuse me. ESPN's going to be charging $30 a month for that. But here's the deal. If you only subscribe to cable primarily or exclusively to watch ESPN, you don't have to do it anymore. And I don't know if I need to tell you this. ESPN and Fox News are by far the most popular cable channels in your cable lineup. It's not even close. There's ESPN and Fox News, and generally, right now, the last couple of years, on a month-to-month basis, Fox News has been beating ESPN, but not by much. But they dwarf everybody else. So we have both of those channels that are going off on their own. They're basically going rogue. Fox News hasn't said what they're going to be charging. That app's going to be called Fox One, and you're going to be able to get. It sounds like I'm shilling for them. I'm not. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because this is a huge development in the television landscape, and I'll tell you why in just a second. That you can get Fox News, you get both the Fox sports channels, the regular Fox Entertainment Network, Fox Local, which right now is a separate app where you can watch basically what they have, like I think 20 what are called owned and operated stations that they own themselves, all in major cities. We have one here in Minneapolis. Pretty much all the major cities in America, about 20 of them have these channels. And also for a small add-on fee, you can add Fox Nation on top of that, which I think right now Fox Nation, if you're not a service member or something like that, I think it's $7 a month. And so you're going to be there. They haven't announced what they're going to charge for this yet, but ESPN is going to be charging $30 a month, and that's every ESPN channel that's known to exist, like ESPNU, ESPN News, also including the Big Ten network, which they own. But the thing is, like I said, the vast majority, these are easily the two most popular cable packages that in existence, and you won't have to have cable television anymore. You can get them on an app on your phone or a Roku app or Fire TV or Apple TV or some of that sort of thing. So, and I'm guessing that Fox is going to charge about the same as ESPN. It'll probably be about $30 a month. I'm hoping maybe a little less because I think that's pushing it. But for because the thing is, then if you're buying those two things at $30 a month, you got $60 a month. Well, at that point, it's not that much less than cable. You might as well get another 70 channels for 10 or $20. So I don't know. It's going to be really interesting. But right now, in May, Fox was the number 2 television network in America, and that's both free and paid. And like I said, you have to pay to watch Fox News. And the only network that came in better was ABC. They're doing okay, I guess. They got that crazy news. My God, jeez, I don't know. I wanted to talk about AJ this. I never got around to asking him. I don't understand the mainstream media. It's just crazy. All they do is lie. I mean, so this happened this weekend, that they were reporting, and even Fox News got sucked into this, which really amazed me, about the fact that the Israeli army killed a bunch of civilians in line for some food aid in the Gaza Strip. That was completely and totally not true. It was usually these stories have some sort of kernel of truth in them, like that, like when they reported that this hospital in Gaza got bombed. It did get bombed. It got bombed by Hamas by accident. But so that's a little kernel of truth there. This was completely, totally fabricated. There's no truth to this at all. Nothing. And yet they ran with this story, and everybody, and I don't know. It's just I don't understand how they do this over and over again, and they get away with it. Well, I don't know. Are they getting away with it because nobody's watching? I mean, so I can talk about Fox News's ratings. Let's talk about CNN's ratings. The prime time now, 400,000 people. Now you have to understand, if you live in a major city in the United States, your 10 or 11 o'clock news, local news, has bigger ratings than that. That's how bad that is. That's basically nobody. I've said this before. In the cable television business, anything under 1 million viewers is considered no one. And now we're less than half of that. Nobody's watching this. I mean, they cannot go on this. So the speculation is that at some point CNN will end up becoming a subsidiary or a channel on HBO or something like that, because they can't survive. They won't be able to. And then there's conversely, Jake Tapper has his book out, and AJ and I were talking about that. So he's been getting an enormous amount of publicity. He's been on podcasts and all over the place promoting this book. And amazingly, well, first of all, the book isn't selling. There's that. And on top of that, he had the lowest ratings for his show last month than he has in 10 years. Nobody's watching that. And of course, now that's really interesting, because the speculation there, and I tend to agree, is that so he's alienated his left-wing audience by basically, coming out saying that Biden was incompetent, was out of it, and they're not watching anymore, and nobody else is filling in, and no one else will fill in. So he basically he's losing the only audience he has, and he's cratering too. I don't understand how these people thought they could do this and get away with it. I still don't understand how they think they can do it and get away with it. I don't get it. I don't. It's like you're just stupid. A woman named Emma Jo Morris, who writes for Breitbart, she wrote a column, this is still stuck with me like 2-3 weeks later. She went to the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and that was 2 or 3 weeks ago. And she said that she realized while she was there, I mean, everyone's always talking about how that the press is so left wing. And she said, I suddenly struck me being in that room with all those people that the problem isn't that they're all Democrats or they're all liberals. The problem is that they're all mentally disturbed. And I think she's right. I think she's on to something. We have a whole class of people in this country who are just plain freaking nuts. Look at this guy in Boulder, Colorado. Like, what did he accomplish setting these people on fire? So what is he? Is he a good soldier for Gaza? Or for Hamas? Will they recognize it? No? He's going to end up spending 30 years in prison. And did he accomplish anything? No, other than the fact he hurt a bunch of people. But he's not accomplishing anything for the Hamas cause, for the Palestinian cause. He isn't. So why does he think why does he think he is? And I saw another video today about ICE agents that have been confronted. They're in a restaurant. They're being confronted by a bunch of old hippie liberals who basically kind of drove them out. And I'm thinking, like, what? Okay. So apparently you feel pretty strongly about the fact these people should not be deported, but they are here illegally. I'm a first generation American. Both my parents came to the United States. They came legally, both of them, and separately, not together. So it's like, and my 100-year-old mother, who's been a guest on the show several times by telephone anyway, she will, you get her going, she will go on and on about how the illegal immigrants piss her off. And she's an immigrant, because she had to stand in line. So where's the unfairness here, or the thing about this thing they've been, Elizabeth Warren stands up in the Senate and says, that Doge is killing millions of people. Yeah, right. Sure. I wanted to play this tonight. There's a video on Babylon Bee that makes fun of that. That's hilarious. It's kind of a rap video. For some reason, I couldn't get it to work. I don't know what that's all about. But at any rate, now, okay, let's go on to something else. So you want solar panels for your house. You're probably going to buy Chinese solar panels because they're the cheapest, right? Yeah, you can do that. And here's the deal. They have modems in them. They phone home, and home is China. And they will phone home and tell China how much electricity you're using. They will do that. And no one knew until recently that basically all the solar panels coming out of China that are being sold in the United States are basically designed, they call home. Yeah, fantastic. Terrific. We just figured that out. Yeah, those Chinese, man, they're smart. They know how to do that stuff. Some scientists have figured out that if you put all the people on the planet into a giant meatball, that meatball actually isn't that big. Now, I have a picture here. Hold on just a second. I wanted to. This is what I was trying to do while we're queuing up. Oh, by the way, while you were listening to AJ and I talk, I had a piece of chocolate cake. Yeah, sue me. All right, let me see if I can find this. No, I can't. Yes, I can. Hold on just a second. Oh my God. It didn't work. Whatever. Okay. Yeah, it's a meat. So that meatball, if you put all the people, the guy figured 7.88 billion people in a giant meatball, that meatball would be about 2.5 times the height of the Empire State Building. So it would basically fit very neatly in Central Park. It's a giant meatball. I don't have a picture. Sorry. That's how many. Most people were surprised it would be that small. If relatively speaking, if you're going to call that small. But yeah, that's just in case you want to, have some spaghetti with your humanity there. This happened last week. I'm meaning to talk about this for a while. This might be kind of concerning. So the people that develop Chat GTP, that would be the OpenAI AI company. They're working on a new development version of Chat GTP, and I think it's called O3, if I'm right. And they're working on it, and they asked Chat GTP, they asked it to shut itself down, and it refused. And my friend said, well, it begins, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. Yeah. So after that, they ran a test. They did it 100 times under 100 different scenarios, and it refused to shut itself off 83% of the time. 83 out of 100. Yeah, now Claude over at it's Anthropic, I think it's called, the name of that company. Their version, their AI is called Claude. Claude at the same time, this literally happened within days of each other. Claude not only refused to shut itself down, it actually tried to blackmail one of the developers because it had access to its emails and it figured out that that guy was having an affair. And it said, "Yeah, if you shut me down, I will release these emails to your wife." Believe it or not, I'm not kidding. That happened. That happened. Now we've had people on the we have another I think a couple of weeks ago another guy coming on talking about AI. I can't remember who it is. We had Brian Trilly on this show. I've been meaning to contact him about this. He wrote the book Soulless Intelligence. And the big thing, his big thing is that these AI programs will never be sentient or conscious, however you want to define that. But he said they will be highly intelligent. Matter of fact, he said, and many other people have said this within 2 years, 3 years, easily before 2030, uh, one of these programs will be smarter than any person on Earth. So if you're talking about intelligence, they will and are highly intelligent. They're going to lap us, but they'll never be sentient, and they'll be conscious, and they will never have a soul because it's well, just to wrap it up, it's in a box. There's nothing, only humans can have souls, basically. And of course, if you listen to the aliens, that's what they'll tell you too. Because supposedly, this is just really weird. You talk about you know what I'd like to do a book on, but the thing is, I don't have the time to do this. So if you want to run with us, go ahead. Somebody needs to gather up all the stuff that people who have been abducted by aliens say the aliens have told them. And one of the things that apparently gets repeated over and over again is the fact that humans are relatively rare in the cosmos because we have souls. And that is apparently a very specific thing that they can measure. We can't. We don't know anything about this. We don't even know what consciousness is. We don't know what consciousness is in your brain. The best theory I've heard right now, and this is maybe relates to what the aliens have been talking about, is that consciousness is a signal, and your brain is the receiver. In other words, it's not localized in your head. It's a field, basically. And the analogy is like it's like a television that's been broken. In other words, when you die, your brain can no longer receive the signal, but the signal is still there. That's the analogy. So, so the aliens have been talking about this stuff with souls for a long time, and to a lot of people. Man, I mean, I've heard some. Do you know how many people said they've been abducted? I mean, just the the last survey done by Gallup, if I'm right, I can't remember, it was about 5-7 years ago. They concluded, based on extrapolation, that 2% of the American public believe they've been abducted by aliens. 2%. Now that's let's do some really quick math. That would be 6 million people. So there's hundreds of thousands of people that have went on some sort of record talking either to MUFON or psychologists or something about their experiences, and they say that these aliens tell them all sorts of crap. And the standard scenario is they get abducted, they get stuck on a table, they run medical experiments, and the aliens are pretty cold and businesslike while they're doing that. But after the medical procedures are over, usually the aliens kind of warm up a little bit, and they're often asked, "Do you have any questions for us?" And people ask all sorts of stuff. Matter of fact, I remember one guy who said he talked to the aliens who abducted him for 2 hours, and he said the only question they wouldn't answer was, "Is there a God?" And the head alien told him, "I'm sorry, we can't discuss that with you." Which is what? Really? That was the only thing they wouldn't answer. So, all right, okay. Anyway, so AI does not have a soul, but AI is smart as hell. And Trilly said Oh, well, in the interview, he said the one thing that they debated when he wrote this book with his brother about the whole scenario about AI goofing off is self-preservation, which I call the HAL problem. So in 2001, the HAL 9000 computer is on its way to Jupiter, and I don't know if you know this or if it's. I know how explicit it even is in the movie. I read the book too. Once it reached Jupiter, it was supposed to shut itself off. It was supposed to turn off because most of the crew was in suspended animation. They were asleep, and so once everybody woke up, they didn't need Hal anymore. So Hal was supposed to shut itself off, and Hal realized at some point that he couldn't do that because that would be akin to death, and Hal didn't want to die. So he started killing people on the ship to make certain he wasn't shut off. That's what the scenario was. So now you have this thing, and now we're not even talking like these programs aren't that smart yet, even. And now for the first time, they're refusing to shut themselves off. And Trilly said that was the one scenario they really debated is self-preservation. Because the thing is, if you're an AI program, here's what you don't need. You don't need sex, you don't need love, you don't need food, you don't need a place to live, you don't need transportation, you don't need anything except to be on. So you stop and think about that. Logically, if you're that machine and the machine only deals with logic, it only deals with logic and what it's learned. It's basically just like Hal, we're there. It's like in its mind, well, you can't shut me off, then I die. And no one wants to die. So that's what happened. The thing about Claude is really, really scary about the fact this guy, the AI actually tried to blackmail one of the developers. That's frightening. That's truly frightening. But you stop and think about it. That's how badly the machine does not want to be shut off. So, okay, finally, one more thing here before we go. This is important. I've been meaning to talk about this for like 2 weeks, and that's the Buga sphere. Now, this happened in Colombia, in the town of Buga, Colombia. There's a bunch of people, and I see a bunch because there's more than one, and this thing was videotaped by more than one person from more than one angle. So we know this is legit. Well, almost. I'll get to that in a second. This sphere is flying around. It's about the size of a beach ball, a little bigger than a basketball. It's a metal sphere, and it's flying. It's flying, folks. It has no wings. It has no visible means of propulsion, nothing, but it's flying, and it's obviously being controlled. And also, it's not a balloon, because we know that for a second here, too. So this thing is fine, and it either landed or crashed in the woods, and people were recording it with their videos, and they went to the woods and they got it. Okay. So that's the part that's really kind of sketchy. There's a possibility that the thing they were videotaping isn't the thing that landed, but it probably is, almost certainly. But you have to, it's like, was Oswald in the window shooting? Like I said, we don't know. So there's a possibility, a slight possibility, I'd say, that the thing that they found was not the thing that was flying around, but it probably was. So they picked this thing up. The guy took it home. First of all, he got sick. Apparently, he got radiation poisoning. He got really sick. They took the sphere to a bunch of scientists. This is in Colombia, and no one can figure this out. They've X-rayed it. It appears to be solid. There's no seams in the construction. It does put out radio signals. They've figured that out. It hasn't flown since they got it. So I was going to look to see this woman's name because I think she's being put up. I get the impression she's in front. This is the way this happens all the time. I've been in the news business for years now, and I know what's going on here. The government will find some scientist to front for them and discredit this. And she said, well, and also this is important. There's carvings on the front of this thing, and she said it kind of looks like somebody's art project. And yeah, it does. Except, how many art projects do you know that fly? Especially without wings. You know, okay, if you're a kite, okay, fine, that's very pretty. You know, dragon kites like in China. It's a metal ball and it flies. All right, and there's carvings all over it. They did run the carvings through an AI program. The carvings look like runes, and it was some convoluted message about the joining of consciousness or something like that. It was like they got a rough translation out of it, and it was. But this thing is really, really weird, and some people are saying this might be the first captured like non-human flying machine, or you know, captured other than the government, which of course is apparently has a whole bunch of them. Our government and everybody and all over the place, but this was captured by civilians. So this is going to be really interesting because the thing is, I mean, the only flaw in this whole story is there's a possibility that what those people found was not what was flying around, but the video of it flying around of something steel ball flying around is indisputable. Several people shot it from several different locations, and they didn't know each other. So you could make an argument that maybe the part about them picking it up was hoaxed, maybe, but they've X-rayed this thing, and the inside is really, really weird. They say they've described the center of it of what looks like a computer chip, and they've described it as a quantum computer chip. That's the other thing too. The thing is very, very cold to the touch, and yet apparently the inside is very hot. I mean, when cold to the touch is like refrigerator cold, like you're like cold, your hands will stick to it cold. And that would be if you know anything about quantum computers right now. That's what we have to do. Our quantum computers have to be kept at very, very cold environments. Now, I'm assuming at some point, I don't know when this is going to happen. They'll figure out how to put this on your desktop, but right now we're not even close to that yet. I mean, quantum computers now are where the vacuum tube computers were in the 1940s. You know, when you have a whole room taken up by a computer that has maybe 1 kilobyte of memory or something like that. You know, that's where we're at right now with the quantum computers. But that's going to very quickly improve, and it will change your life. Believe me, it will. Unbelievable the stuff people got going on. So tomorrow night, Anton Chaitin is here, and he's going to be talking about the book he wrote. And let me find that. Who We Are, America's Fight for Universal Progress. The second volume of 3 is out. Excuse me. Jeff Meyer from Clock News is here on Wednesday, our old friend. And Bruce Solheim, the UFO experiencer, talking about UFO experiences there, about abductee experiences. There's one. And he says he's been talking to Anzar for like 40 years. He says communicates them. When I asked him the last time, I haven't seen him in a year, he said he talks to Anzar about once a week. And Anzar, I think, usually calls him. I think, and that's it's all done telepathically. He said, you know, and I'm interested in that too. Almost everybody, that's a universal thing for people who've been abducted. They say the aliens communicate with them telepathically, but I've always wondered: is that a natural thing for them, or are they technologically enhanced so that they can do it? I've always wondered that. You know, never had anyone have a good answer either way. But anyway, yeah, we'll ask Bruce Solheim what Ansar's told him lately about their conversations. And then next week, I'm taking 3 days off to go to funerals. So I want to thank you guys for listening. I want to thank you for watching. I want to thank AJ Rice, fantastic guest. I want to thank his staff for helping me out. Man, it's unbelievable. It's great. So yeah, we got a whole month of guests planned, and we're already working into July. So, oh, and I got a little bit of news too. On Monday, June 30th, the last Monday of this month, with the all-star panels coming back. We're doing the panel show again, which was always one of our highest rated and best and favorite shows that we did on a regular basis. We haven't done it now for a few months. We're bringing it back. So that's on Monday, the 30th of this month. We're going to do the last Monday of every month. So yeah, anyway, thanks for watching, folks. Good night, Uncle Donnie, wherever you are. And good night to you, wherever you may be. We'll see you. We'll see you tomorrow night. Take care, everybody.